Would you be upset if I decided to convert?
No. All right. So we are today doing determinants and inverses of matrices. Determinant, you're going to be like, what is that? Well, basically, it's a number.
Determinant.
And you use a determinant to find the inverse. Okay? That's about, I can't think of anything else they're used for. Okay? You find the determinant to get an inverse. So first thing we're going to do is learn how to find a determinant. It's very, very simple. Okay? You're going to start up here at your top left number. And by the way, you see how this matrix doesn't have the little top and bottom to it, okay? Mm-hmm. That means they're wanting you to find a determinant. They're not going to say find the determinant. That'll just look like absolute value bars. If you see like something that like absolute value bars, they're wanting the determinant, okay? It's very simple. You take this number and multiply them, minus this number and multiply.
What if there are more than 4 numbers?
We'll get to that. You can only find determinants of square matrices, okay? So it has to be a 2x2 or a 3x3 or a 4x4 or a 5x5, okay? You will not do anything by hand more than a 3x3, okay? If it's a 4x4, we're going to put it in our calculator, which I'll show you how to do that later too, okay? So there's the important. You got to subtract, okay? This times this minus this times this, okay? Blue times blue minus green times green. And then that's it. That's all there is to it. So that's -4 times -1 is 4. And then anything times 0 is what? 0. So it cancels. There's my answer for 15. All right. Easy enough? Piece of cake?
They're not all that easy, though.
You try 18. Well, these kind of, I mean, yeah, they're that easy. Okay?
I've learned it on our lessons in here. I kind of get it when we started, and then by the end, I have no clue what's going on.
Oh, that's not what I wanted to hear. You're supposed to say I don't get it at the beginning, and then by the end, I've got it.
The problems just get harder.
Well, that's life.
I think that's why I get the basic concept.
Stay above the line, Katie. Okay? Life's gradually going to get harder. I understand. We all are these days.
I'm hanging on to that line.
We all are these days. Hopefully, that's the work you showed. You got 13 times -8 minus 7 times -5. So that is definitely one. You can figure out what 13 times 8. I'm not sure what that is.
So you do the top left,
104.
bottom right.
-104 plus 35.
Top right.
My book says we should get -69. If that's not what you're calculating, let me know. Thumbs up. Everybody good? Okay. 2 by 2 is easy, right? Okay. You're just basically cross multiplying and subtracting. All right. Don't forget, you got to subtract. Okay. What I found in the past is people get this confused with matrix multiplication. Okay. When you're doing your rows times your columns, when you're doing your rows times your columns, what do you do with the numbers? Add. Okay. So if you say this times this plus this times this plus this. Okay. So here you are subtracting. Everybody good? All right. Let's do a bigger one. 3 by 3. 2 ways, 2 methods. Okay. I'm going to give you one method, and the next problem I'll do the other method. Okay. So this first one, we break it down to be 2 by 2s. And how do you do that? Well, and this way, by the way, you will use later in the class. Okay. When we start talking about vectors, you will use this method, okay, later in class, what I'm about to do. So I don't have enough room this way, so I'm just going to put equals down here. You basically take these top 3 numbers. Everybody got me? So, and you're going to say 2 and make a little matrix, okay, minus -1 plus 3, and you make a little matrix, okay? I should say the determinant matrix, all right? Now notice, what did I do in the middle? Subtracted. It's always like that. You always, it's whatever the number is, opposite the number, whatever the number is. If it was a 4 by 4, the next one we would what? Subtract. We would subtract again if we were doing it by hand. Okay, like I said, you're not going to have to do any 4 by 4s by hand. These are long enough, okay? And what you go back and put in here is, you see 2 right here? Cancel out the row 2 is in and cancel out the column 2 is in. Okay, so I'm gonna highlight it. So this row and that column get canceled. What's left? A 2 by 2. And that's what goes in here. 0, -2, -2, or -3, 0. All right? You can adjust it now. Then we will switch that over. Oops, I just need that one. Okay, so now I'm taking out the row and the column that -1 is in, so what's left? 3, -2, and 1, 0. Everybody see how I'm doing that? And then finally, the last one that 3's in, 3, 0, and 1, -3. And now we just did 2 problems that are 2 by 2, so now it's just doing math, okay? You just have numbers out here in front. So we got 2 parentheses, and you do your 2 by 2 determinant. So 0 times 0 is 0. So I'll just write it all out. 0 times 0 minus -2 times -3. Okay? Everybody following what I did there? All right. A -1 will be what? 2 negatives make a positive. +1. And then we have 3 times 0 minus -2 times 1. All right. I don't know why I went brackets there. Should have done there too. Sorry about that. And then finally, +3. We've got 3 times -3 minus 0 times 1. And it's literally just simplifying all that, okay? I'm going to come up in here and simplify. This is, of course, what? 0 times 0 is 0. So -2 times a -3. So how many negatives we got there? 3 negatives. So it's going negative. What's 2 times 3? 6. And then what's 2 times -6? -12. Everybody see how I did that? Okay. 3 times 0 cancels. Negative, a -2 times 1 will be +2. And +2 times the 1 on the outside is just 2. And finally, 3 times -3 is -9. Minus 0 times anything, again, it's still 0. What's -9 times 3? -27. And finally, you add all that up. So that's going to be, what, -37?
Yep.
All right.
Just a second.
No problem. So 3 by 3s are a little longer. 4 by 4s are even longer. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. I know I'm supposed to know everything because I'm the teacher, but I'm not even really sure how to do 4 by 4s by hand. I would assume it would be something along the lines of what we did here. And you'd have to break it down into a 3 by 3 and then break that down into a 2 by 2. Okay, but I've never actually had to do one, so I'm not gonna make you do one. If you get to that level math, you're higher than me anyway. So come back and show me how after you graduate college or whatever.
Okay, so
Okay.
the first one is -12. I have that.
Okay.
And then I have plus, like I want the very simplified part at the very end.
Here.
Right there. And then I have plus -2, which is the same thing as +2.
It's not negative. You have minus -2?
I have plus a -2.
That's -2 then. You should have +2. Here, see, a negative and a negative make a what?
Positive.
Positive times 1 times 1. So positive 2 times 1 is 2.
Times 0 minus -2, 0. Okay.
You good?
Yeah, but I also have negative. Never mind, that one's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions on that? All right. Option 2 on how to work it. All right. It's like I said, you will use this later on. So I would want to know that if I was picking an option, okay? And if I'm using it later on, I might as well learn it now. But if you want to do it this way, I'm about to show you can. All right. So new problem. You take your first 2 rows, okay? Again, we can do the same thing on this one, but I'm going to show you a different way. We can take these first 2 rows and we're going to rewrite them, okay? So I'm going to put 25, 31, and 17. I said first 2 rows. I meant first 2 columns, excuse me. First 2 columns, and I'm going to rewrite them. And then over here we got 36, negative 12, and 15. And some people like doing it this way because it's more like the 2x2 way, all right? It's a little more straightforward. So everything going from left to right, you're going to add together. Everything going from right to left, you're going to subtract. And what do I mean by that? Well, again, let me get my highlighter out.
So this is just a different method?
This is the same thing, just a different method of doing it.
I ain't gonna listen.
All right, that's fine. This way, see those 3? And these 3? And those 3. Okay? These diagonals. You're going to say 25 times negative 12 times 9 plus 36 times negative 2 times 17 plus 15 times 31 times 15. Everybody see what I did there? Okay. Going in my diagonals. Notice I did what with all, I added all those. Okay, now I'm going to go the other direction, but this time I'm going to do what? Subtract all of them. Okay, has everybody got those? Okay, I'll give you a second. Like I said, this one's a little more straightforward. There's not as much simplifying, but they're both equally kind of, I guess, long. Everybody got this? Good. All right. Now we're going to go the other direction. So let me, hey, yeah, I want that on. Oh, shoot. Don't want all of that on. I just want these. There we go. So take those up. I'll just rewrite my 31 wanted to go along for the ride for some reason. All right.
Who's done?
31. He was like, I'm out of here. All right. So now we're going to go this direction. Everybody see that? Okay. And all you have to remember is in front of everything, put a what? Negative. So this is going to be negative 15 times negative 12 times 17 minus 25 times negative 2 times 15 minus 36 times 31 times 9.
Why'd you put a negative?
Because when you're going this direction, you always subtract. You're doing the same thing on a 2x2. You just only have 2 of them to do. Okay, so let me go back to a 2x2 and just show you what I'm talking about. Come on, one more. Here we go. So what did we do? We went this direction, and then when we started doing this direction, we went minus. Is that making sense? Okay, so as long as you're going this direction, you keep adding, and as soon as you start going from right to left, you subtract.
So you put it in negative 7 times negative 5 plus 13.
No, you 13 times 8 or times negative 8 minus 7 times negative 5. You got me? Okay. All right. So back to this way. Once you get all these, it's just simplifying. It's just putting all this in your calculator. And I literally write it all just like that. in my calculator. Just make sure you don't miss a sign. And then that way, as long as you don't miss a sign, you should get it right. You should end up with negative 3,183. So if you don't get that, let me know and we'll talk about it.
So you just put everything from the 25 all the way down to the 9.
Yep.
All the way through.
All the way through. Parentheses,
So
everything.
you would say where that 15 parentheses is minus, and then you start with the 15.
Yep. Literally, I literally put it just like I've seen some people, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can do it. I've seen some people find this one, write their answer, find the top, but when they find the top or find the bottom, they add them, okay? They keep it positive, and then at the very end, they subtract the two numbers. That's another way of doing it if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay, you just have to know you're subtracting everything on the bottom 3. Okay, so if you want to add them first and then subtract them all at once, you can. All right. Like I said, if you don't get 3,183,
Okay, good.
let me know because that should be the right answer. God bless you.
I did it the different way, got that?
Okay.
I got that.
Yeah, and it should not matter which way you like. If you did it the first way I showed you, you should still get this answer too. Okay. Everybody good? No problem. I know it's a lot to type in.
I have tiny fingers.
We do, like before, it says you was very hard, we do like, maybe like a worksheet, like one of those practice songs.
Yes. I just handed you one.
Is this what that is?
It's got some on there, but we'll do more if we need to. Okay. Everybody good?
Hold on, I did it wrong, but I'm trying to fix it.
Okay.
If I get it right this time, then I'll.
I wonder if she's teaches in Alton Young Will.
I got a vendor in my phone.
I want to get real good at German.
Oh, it's from Audio.
So if you did, so if you did
It's all one thing, yes. I just don't have room to write it on.
Okay, cool.
So if you did it the other way, you put 25.
You would have put 25 and then negative 12, negative 2, 15, 9. And then you would have done 36 and 31, negative 2, 17, and 9. And then you would have done 15 and 31, negative 12, 17, 15. Yes.
But the 25 would have been, I got those right.
Yep. Yep. The top 3 numbers are always outside. Okay.
Pat?
I'm getting there. I'm on the last thing to do.
Don't mess up now.
I literally told this.
I didn't do it that way.
You know what? Okay. Whatever.
We'll go back.
No, we're back, we're back.
We'll go back after the video. All right. 27,
After the video.
27. We are finding the inverse of this matrix. Okay. So you like I told you earlier, you use the determinant to find the inverse. So what is the inverse? It's 1 over the determinant, okay, times a new matrix. And here's your new matrix. It's a pattern, and I know it's a pain in the butt to memorize, but you just have to memorize, okay? So here's what you're going to do with your matrix. These two numbers. And when I say these two, I'm talking about this one and this one. They swap. Okay? Everybody's looking at like, what do you mean swap? I mean, they trade places. So negative 2 comes to the top left, positive 2 goes to the bottom right. Everybody with me so far? The other two numbers, they just change their signs, but they stay where they're at. So this becomes positive 3 and positive 2. All right? And so the last thing we need to do is figure out what is the determinant. And you're just saying 1 over the determinant. So my determinant would be, we just found it, 2 times negative 2 minus negative 3 times negative 2. That's negative 4 minus 6, which is negative 10. So my answer to this is 1 over negative 10 times negative 2, 3, 2, and 2. That is your inverse, okay? Now, let's talk about something real quick. What does the inverse do? What would, if I was adding 6, what would its inverse be? Subtracting 6. If I were multiplying by 6, what would its inverse be? Dividing 6. So the inverse just undoes whatever it is you're trying to do. It gets rid of it. You got me? So what this does, if I were to multiply this matrix by its inverse, okay? If I were to multiply the original times its inverse, my answer would end up being 1, 0, 0, 1. Does that look familiar? Okay, that's called the identity matrix, okay? And you've heard these before. The identity, a property of addition is if you add 0, you like 6 plus 0 is 6, right? Okay, the identity property of multiplication is 6 times 1 is 6, okay? So if you were to multiply the identity matrix by a matrix, you'll get the same matrix, okay? It won't change. But if you do a matrix times its inverse, you will get the identity matrix every time, okay? Yes, sir.
So, where did you get negative 2 times 2 negative minus?
Here,
Yeah.
I did the determinant like we were just doing. I
Yeah.
did 2 times that minus negative 3 times negative 2.
Wait, so the.
2 times negative 2.
Why'd you rewrite it then? What was that?
Here,
No, up there. No.
because there's 2 steps. You have to find the determinant, 1 over negative 10, and you have to switch these numbers and change these number signs every time. Okay? Now, if you put this in your calculator, or if you're doing this on a ACT test type, okay, I want you to understand, it might not give it to you like this, okay? Can we multiply these? Yeah, that's my scalar outside, okay? So I know for sure if you're doing it in your calculator, they're not going to put this out front, okay? But if you're doing it on the ACT, they might leave this out front for an answer, okay? But on your calculator, it's going to multiply that negative 1/10 in, okay? So negative 1/10 times negative 2 is 2/10, which reduces to 0.2, or 1/5. They might put 1/5. 3 times negative 1/10 would be negative 0.3. Negative 1/10 times 2 again is negative 0.2, and negative 1/10 times 2 is negative 0.2. Your calculator will give you that answer, okay? But they might have the answer written like this in a multiple choice standardized test setting. That makes sense? Okay. Any questions? Everybody good? All right. Hey, I think this up. One more. Try this one. 1 over. Make sure we get this part right first. So I know it's going to be 1 over the determinant. I'm just going to leave that blank down there. What switches places? What 2 numbers? The top left 6 and the bottom right negative 7. So the negative 7 comes there, the positive 6 goes there. And what do I do to the other 2? Change their signs. So 6, negative 7. And now I just got to find the determinant. So 6 times negative 7 minus 7 times negative 6. Negative 42 plus 42. What is that?
That's the positive stuff.
That's it.
Yeah.
Everybody positive seven.
No, but remember, you're
No,
doing this
no, in the
minus.
problem. In the problem.
Oh, here in the problem, that's negative?
No, they're both positive.
They're both positive. Thank you for fixing me. So I wrote the problem wrong, correct?
Yes, sir.
So that needs to be positive 7 too. Now we're good? Okay, so I need to, let's see here. 6 times positive 7 minus 7 times negative 7. Okay. 42 plus 42 is 84. So That would be your answer. Or if you plugged it in, 7 over 84, negative 7 over 84. 6 over 84 reduces to 3 over 20, no, 3 over 42. No, that's even more. 6 must go into 84. What is 6 over 84? That'd be 3 over 42, which would be 1 over 14. Okay.
Wait, do you have to do that? Do you have to put it into a fraction order?
I would take either answer. Okay, I would take this or I would take this. So whichever one you want to do. Okay. Just know if you're checking it on the answers, it's got it written like this. That doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong if you're good up here. Okay, just check when you multiplied it in. Okay, I'm going to take either one. I'll make sure we got it right here.
Can it be decimal or does it have to be fraction?
It can be decimal as long as they're not big, long, ugly things. Okay, like if you got 0.57892, don't write that. Okay, and don't round either because then it won't be exact. Okay, everybody good? All right.
Wait, what is? Oh, I didn't change it. We have to change everyone.
Yeah, don't forget to change. Don't. And remember, I told y'all number one mistake people make on these kind of problems. What do? You write the problem wrong. Exhibit A. I wrote it wrong to begin with, which made it not fun. 33. Are we doing another one? Yep. This one looks hard. And by the way, I was kind of excited there for a second because I thought our determinant was going to be 0. If your determinant is 0, you don't have an inverse because 1 divided by 0. Can you divide by 0? No. So if you get 0 for your determinant, you just put it doesn't exist. Okay, it doesn't have an inverse. Everybody with me? Okay, it has a determinant, but it doesn't have an inverse. So, all right. 1 over. What do we do with the 3/4 and the 1/2? Switch them. So 1/2, 3/4. And what do we do with the 5 and the 1/8, negative 1/8? Change their sign. So -5, positive 1/8. And we got to figure out what is the determinant. So 3/4, bless you, times 1/2 minus negative 1/8 times 5. This is where I'm glad we have calculators. Those two will be positive. Let's see here. That's going to be 3/8 plus, oh, that's not bad, 5/8. What's 3/8 plus 5/8? 8/8. And 8/8 is 1. How about that? That's not bad at all. So, boom. It is a good feeling, isn't it?
It is. I feel like you completed something.
So 1/2, 1/8, negative 5, and there you go. Boom.
Yeah, but like, it's metaphorical.
Notice I didn't put the ones because I don't know what's 1 divided by 1. Still 1, right? Easy peasy.
We're just canceling everything.
We are. All right. I'm holding up. We have learned all this stuff, and now you're finally gonna be like, okay, now this is why we learned it.
Or we can just stop over.
Nope, we're gonna learn why. Okay, you good? Everybody good?
The video?
Does that look familiar? We did these over on section 1, right? Okay, but we did them using substitution, elimination, blah, blah, blah. Today we're going to solve this using a matrix. Okay, we're going to make a matrix equation. You'll like this because you're going to get to use your calculator. Yay. Okay.
But I know how to do the others. Matrices, whatever they're called, confused.
I'm sorry.
I need to tutor us. No, I really need it. Yesterday was not good for me. I was trying to better the health of my classmates. And now I'm behind.
All right. You have a coefficient matrix, a variable matrix, and it equals to a constant matrix. Basically, you're just making a matrix out of your system of equations. Okay? It's very easy. Coefficient matrix. Coefficient. What are coefficients? What are coefficients?
Numbers in front of the letter.
The numbers in front of the letter are variables, okay? So the numbers in front of the variables. So my coefficient matrix is the numbers that are in front of the variables. So what number's in front of that X? 1. What about that Y? 5. What about that X? 3. What about that Y? Okay? My variable matrix.
X, Y, X, Y.
You don't have to say them twice. X and Y equals my constant matrix. What are they equal to?
26 negative 41.
Everybody good?
Oh.
All right. Well, we got to work it now.
Oh,
All right.
I'm already working.
Now, we're going to solve this for X and Y. So if we're going to solve it for X and Y, what do we need to get rid of? Not the constant matrix, the coefficient matrix, okay? Think of it like this, 6x equals 12. What do we got to get rid of to solve for X there? 6, what do we do to do it? Divide by 6, which is the, what do we call that? The inverse. That is the inverse operation, right?
Now we're doing the
Okay,
verse.
so what do we have to multiply by to get rid of this?
At 1 is Y.
We just found it a couple times. The inverse. We have to multiply this by the inverse matrix. Okay?
And that completely cancels it?
It completely cancels. It ends up with 1, 0, 0, 1. Okay? And when you have 1, 0, 0, 1 times xy, guess what you get? Xy. Remember, that's the identity matrix. So if you multiply that by anything, you're just going to get the exact same thing.
And I get what you're saying.
You with me?
Yes.
Okay? So rather than having to show all that, I'm going to let you use your calculator for once. Because if you're doing it this way, okay, you're going to have a calculator in your hand. If you don't have a calculator in your hand, you're probably going to do substitution elimination. Is that making sense? All right. So I want to show you first. I'm going to call this matrix A, okay, and I'm going to call this matrix B. Now, you don't have to do this on your cool little calculator. You can just plug in the matrix, but I want you to understand what you're doing, okay? So basically, we have AX equals B, all right? I already said, what do I need to multiply the A by to get rid of it? It's what? Inverse. So I want to multiply this side by the inverse of A, and I'm going to multiply this side by the inverse of A. Notice, where am I putting it? In the front. Don't put it in the back, okay? Has to go in the front just like it did over here. This will cancel these, and I'll just be left with X, okay? In my case, I have X and Y. Pretty, man? Yes. Awesome. All right. So XY will equal the inverse of A times B. So in your calculator, you're going to put 1, 5.
At this time, any seniors with a last name D through F need to report to the gym for senior portrait.
That's nice,
All right, man. Smile pretty. So I'm going to multiply this matrix times 1, but I'm not multiplying this matrix. I'm multiplying by its what? Inverse. So the way you do that on a calculator, it's that little -1 symbol. Okay? So in your calculator, let me find my calculator real
I
quick.
don't even do the matrix. We don't know how to do the matrix. Never showed so.
Hit second or alpha and zoom. Let me pull up mine and I'll show you.
Yeah, it is. It's alpha zoom.
All right, Paris, can you see that calculator?
Yes, I can.
All right, I'm not sure if you'll be able to do this on your phone, but when you get a calculator, here's what you're going to do. You're going to hit alpha, zoom, we got to tell how many rows and columns we had. How many rows and columns do we have?
I think it was
How many rows? 2 rows. And how many columns? 2. So I'm good. So
Oh, wait, how do you change it?
you use your arrows.
Isn't it took me somewhere else? That's what mine
you have to press enter
You have
first.
to hit enter. Okay.
It still ain't doing
Took on. Yeah.
Well, I was on this side.
And I'm like, oh, I need.
All right. So, okay. It should bring it up. Everybody see it? What was our coefficient matrix? 1. Oh, shoot. I missed. Don't hit enter. Remember, you got to use the arrows. Sorry. Alpha, zoom. Why is it not coming up? Alpha, zoom. There we go. Okay. So it was 1 arrow. What was the next one? 5. At the bottom, 3, -2. And then on the outside, I'm going to hit the little X to the -1, but that will make it be what? The inverse. All right. X to the -1 is the 4th button from the bottom on the or from the top on the left. Actually, it's 5th from the very top. Okay. Then we have to multiply that by the constant matrix. Well, how big was the constant matrix? It was a 2 by 1. And then you plug in the constant matrix, which was, y'all wrote it down.
46 and 41.
46. Is that right? 26. Oh, shoot.
Wait.
26 and -41. All right. Boom.
You hit enter?
2 by 1. So 2 by 1. You do, after you plug it in, you hit enter, yes.
Wait,
So
don't
what's,
we have to do the inverse on the 26 and 41?
because we're not, that's, let me go back to my board.
So is it
Oh, never
enter?
mind.
Because that's not what we right. We multiplied by the, remember, rules of algebra have not changed. We multiplied by the inverse of A on the left side, so now we got to multiply by the inverse of A on the right side. We don't multiply, we're not changing the constant, okay? We're just multiplying both sides of the equation by the inverse of A, okay? Or by our matrix inverse. -9.7, yes. I hit enter. Okay.
I got -42.3. I did. Wait, it just.
All right. Everybody good?
Wait, I'm trying to figure this out.
No, don't multiply. Alpha zoom, put in another. Put your X -1.
At least you get to
I got -9.
Now understand what your answer is telling you. What is -9? Which variable? X, and 7 is Y, because that's what was on top and what was on bottom. You got me? So X equals -9, Y equals 7. Done. All right. It seems like it takes a long time, but that's because you're getting used to putting it in your calculator.
Okay, so originally we had 153 -2. When we put it into the calculator, we put -1, it gave us the.
It does the inverse.
It gave us the inverse. So that would be the same thing as say 1 times -2 minus 5 times 3. Same thing we were just doing.
Yes, but then we remember you have to switch them and change their signs and all that. too. Look, I'm going to delete all this. Just to show you. I don't want to clear it.
Does it clear like this?
See, I was afraid of that.
Bet you was up for that. I'm glad I didn't miss this part. I gotta catch better. I'm not really buckle down.
All right. Look, I'm just going to show you the inverse part. So if you just do inverse and you hit enter, that's the inverse. Okay. Times. Math, zoom. I won't put alpha zoom, excuse me. What was it, 26?
Negative 41.
Dang it. Did it again. Negative 41. All right. You hit enter, of course. Must have messed something up. One, was it 1, 5, negative 2,
Three.
negative 3?
Three, then negative 2.
She works at school.
Doing everything.
All right. Time. Let's see if it'll work this time. So this, that's just the inverse. Okay? But you don't have to write all that down because your calculator is doing it for you. If we were to find the inverse, that's what you give it, okay? Now, on your test, you're going to have to show your work, but just know every problem on your test, you'll be able to use your calculator to check and make sure you got it right, okay? Because your calculator will find the inverse, your calculator will, correct. Your calculator will find the inverse, it'll find the determinant, it'll multiply them, it'll add them, it'll do everything. But just know on the test, I'm going to expect you to show your work, so I know you just didn't use it. It's not a calculator test, but I don't mind you using the calculator to check your answer. Okay? Yes. I don't know, right? Let's try our last problem. All right, we're going to skip that one. Do our last one, 42. Got our absolute value equation, or lines again. So what does that mean we're finding? The determinant. So I told you I wouldn't make you do one bigger than a 3 by 3. I'm not going to. We're going to do it using our calculator. So if you will hit on your calculator. No, it's yeah, second math. No, second x to the negative 1. It says matrix. Everybody see that? Second x to the negative 1. Second, look up here. Second x to the negative 1. It will bring up matrix and it'll say like A, B, C, D. Everybody see that? Okay. Scroll to the right, 1, where it says cal. That means calculate. Okay, scroll to the, or it says math, excuse me. It says math, I'm sorry. The very first one says what? D-E-T. What do you think that stands for? Determinant. So hit enter, determinant, and then plug in your matrix. Okay, that's when you're gonna hit your zoom or your green button, zoom. This is how big? It is a 4x4. And you just plug in your numbers. Remember, don't hit enter until you're got them all plugged in. Use the arrows until then. Everybody with me? Okay.
Are we gonna do 39?
No.